everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with a prize picks preview for a big week of golf. We've got multiple events on the docket. Got ourselves the Rocket Mortgage Classic, the Classical PGA Tour event, and then on the other side, got ourselves the LIV Bedminster, which will be starting on Friday and going through Sunday there. So 2 slates to break down. Going to break down both golf courses and what I expect from the playing conditions, but most of all, what everyone is here for. Going to give you picks for both slates. So by the end, you'll have 5 picks that I have my eye on here for Thursday and Friday at both events. So you should be able to make quite a few cards yourself. So looking forward to it. A lot to touch on here. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. We'll go ahead and start with the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So we've got ourselves Detroit Golf Club, which is a par 72, and at that, an extremely easy golf course. You can see with the scoring average, it played right around a stroke and a half under par, which is a whole stroke easier than even the average PGA Tour course, where we're used to seeing scoring week in and week out. On top of that, 4 par 5s that are extremely scoreable, and most of the holes outside of the par 5s, you're going to have wedge in hand for the par 4s. So you're looking at plenty of birdie looks, and as a result, the guys that can set up a lot of birdie looks, but most importantly perhaps, also take advantage of them when they come up, are going to be the players that I have my eyes on. So if we take a look at the proximity stats, you'll see that the 75 to 100, also that 100 to 125 yard range are definitely going to be overutilized, and also that 250 plus yard range. That is a majority due to those par 5s, which are extremely long, like I mentioned, but there are 4 of them out there, which should lead to some pretty solid scoring. If we take a look at the weather, you'll see on Thursday in the morning, slightly better conditions than the afternoon, which is what we're used to seeing here on the PGA Tour. Slightly lower sustained winds there, around 7 to 9 miles an hour, whereas in the PM wave, you have closer to 14 to 17. So clearly, should be a little bit of an advantage, maybe a half a stroke to stroke difference between the 2 waves. And in terms of the wind gusts, also right around that same difference. It goes from the 12 to 17 mile an hour range upwards to the 22 to 24 mile an hour range. So you'll see with some of the props that I'm taking, I am certainly favoring the guys that are going to be playing a little bit earlier in the day. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at these props. So we're going to start this off with the strokes board on the PGA side, where arguably my favorite prop on either of the slates is going to be Tony Finau under 69.5 strokes. Now here, obviously it is a par 72 at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, the 4 par 5s on the docket, but still with Tony Finau in those morning conditions, somebody that I project for right around 68.7 strokes. Patrick Cantlay, I project for in a similar range, but the real difference there is if he gets to 69 strokes, that would be a hit rather than a push. Obviously, for somebody who projects for just less than 69, you're going to get to that number a whole lot. So for me, the real difference between the 2 players, and both of them will be teeing off towards the morning there on Thursday, is really the hitting rather than pushing factor. So with Patrick Cantlay, another guy I'd consider taking the under on, but it's an elite level player, somebody coming in off a win. He's been ball striking the absolute heck out of it for the last 2 months now. And at that type of price tag, I'm willing to take it. Whereas, there's guys at 69.5 in the afternoon, like a Will Zalatoris, for example, or even the guys down here at 70, like a Kisner, Young, Homa, for example, who are playing in the PM wave, who, I just much prefer to play the stud playing in the morning, right? I think Tony Finau could very easily be bumped down to 69 strokes pretty much any second at this point. So I've jumped on the gun early, tried to get ahead of some of that line movement, and tried to take advantage because I think it's a relatively soft line right now and something I'll be playing quite a bit of. Outside of that with strokes, I'm trying to lean towards unders on guys in the morning. And if I'm looking to play any fades out here, it's a majority the overs and guys in the PM wave. Now, it's not the easiest to choose from because they have a relatively stronger field, at least compared to last week. So not a lot of real, bums to pick on here. And even guys like Ricky Fowler, right, or even Jason Day, who might be prime candidates for a fade, just based on where they are with their career trajectory, or playing in the morning wave. So it makes them a much tougher fade there. So, by and far, the favorite one that I've found on the board is going to be Tony Finau under at 69.5. but I figured I'd give you my full sentiment on the board. Next up, we've got birdie or better, where I'm taking two guys in the PM wave, but I think a lot of the birdie or better numbers, are factoring in the actual waves here. You'll see somebody like Patrick Cantlay at 5.5 birdies, which seems ridiculous, right? In fact, I project him for really close to that number, so something I'm actually fading altogether, not taking the over or the under. But guys like a Will Zalatoris, right? He's at 5 because he's PM. Obviously, Tony Finau at 5 because he's the AM wave. And then you have a lot of the PM guys like Adam Scott, Harris English, Keegan Bradley, Max Homa, Cameron Young, all in the PM wave there at 4.5. So clearly these are the best players in the field, and a lot of them that they have on the board are playing in the PM wave. So just keep that as a word of caution. For the most part on birdies, I am taking overs on the guys in the morning, but two that really stand out to me that are also playing in the quote unquote worst conditions are Cameron Young and Max Homa. Because if they were playing in the morning, I project them for close to like 5.5, maybe even like 5.6 birdies. Whereas in the afternoon, it's a little bit more modest, but it's still well above 4.5. In fact, with Cameron Young, I project him for 4.8 birdies, and Max Homa actually for 4.9 birdies, just based on how well he's played for this entire year. So both players well above that mark. I think there's quite a bit of value in getting to them. And both players have historically been fast starters. I've gone out there to first round leader multiple times this year, and are players that aren't afraid of going low. And at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, especially with a birdie or better type of prop, that's what we're looking for. Guys that have a high birdie or better percentage, that are aggressive, that aren't afraid to go out there and take a golf course low. Both of these players check that box emphatically. Outside of that, like I said, I'd prefer to take overs on guys in the morning. There's a few on the board here you can take a few looks at yourself. And if I was going to take any fades with this, it'd be guys in the PM wave that are maybe a little bit lower tier players. And I don't want to point any out. Of course, guys, if you're looking for all of the props I'm taking, they are posted on my Patreon page. Every single one of them. I post the slips that I'm taking too. So if you're looking for an idea of actually how to structure your cards or some of the exposure you should be getting to, I give you a really good idea on there. So if you're looking for fades, all of the guys that I'm taking for this category, that is exactly where to find it. A link to it is in the description of this video. It is $10 a month. You not only get my prize pick stuff, but also all the Draftkings projections, spreadsheets, and all of that I'm producing. It is an all-inclusive package. So just highly recommend you check it out. And we will be doing the same thing for football when that season starts too. So for any of you football fans out there, that will be something that I'm offering. Now that we've talked about the PGA Tour, let's go ahead and focus on the LIV Tour. So we're at Trump National Bedminster, the old course this week. And frankly, there isn't a ton of information available about the course. So let's go ahead and start with what we know. It isn't a par 72. They will be playing it as a par 71. It is an extremely long golf course. And even if they take some distance off to account for the change from a par 72 to a par 71, we're looking at a 7,700 yard par 71. Yikes, right? Even the longest hitters on tour like a Bryson or a Dustin Johnson, for example, at this golf course are going to struggle on a few of the holes here. And just to give you an idea, 660 yard par 5. The average par 4 here is 466 yards. I think the longest par 4s this week at the Rocket Mortgage Classic are like 466 yards. You have 490. You have a 522 yard par 4. And even the par 5s are 557, 567 yards. This is a golf course where it's extremely evident just from the scorecard that distance is going to be a factor, especially when we consider it's in Bedminster. It's in New Jersey. It's not at elevation. So you're going to be dealing with not actual sea level conditions. You're not going to be dealing with heavy air like you have down in Florida, but it's still going to be, your usual setup. It's not like we're out there in Utah or out there at elevation in Las Vegas. We're going to get some extra distance. It's going to play a true 7,800 yards here. So distance is clearly going to be a factor there. And when we take a look at the weather, you'll see that it's at least advantageous. So they'll be playing right around 1 p.m. Eastern time. So right around 6 to 9 miles an hour of sustained winds. And then there from the 9 to 16 mile an hour range when it comes to some of the wind gusts. So nothing that should affect these players too much. I'd expect the wind the weather conditions to be about as advantageous as they could be around Bedminster. But with the distance at this golf course, this was also supposed to be the home of the 2022 PGA Championship. So clearly, a major championship level golf course. I don't think it's going to be a pushover. So with that being said, the prize picks board is accounting for that. So there's some sharp guys over there, JTA and Steven. They have an idea of what they're doing. And a lot of it comes down to the major championship pedigree, right? This is a championship level golf course. It was going to host the PGA Championship for a reason. So there's a reason why there's guys here at 4 birdies. So, DJ, Bryson, the cream of the crop here, you're only getting at 4 birdies as opposed to 5.5 over there with Patrick Cantlay. So, that's the reason for that difference. I'd argue that this is a much more difficult golf course than what the PGA Tour guys are going to see. So the props that I really have my eyes on, let's go ahead and start with the matchup side, where I'm taking the over on Bryson DeChambeau against Charles Howell III. And frankly, this is my favorite prop on the entire board on the LIV side. And the reason for it is we don't know a lot about the golf course. We've only seen it one time in tournament play, which was for a women's US Open. So not a lot that we can really draw from there. But what we know is that Bryson, in a birdie or better matchup, right, when we're just worrying about birdies converted, is going to be one of the best players in the world. His birdie or better percentage on the PGA Tour was number 1 last year. This year wasn't all that good because of the injury, but he's starting to look like the Bryson of old. I mean, at the Open Championship was in contention for quite some time, and no one saw that coming, right? I mean, clearly, the wrist is starting to become a figment of the past. So against Charles Howell III, who's not the longest player, and while he's not the shortest player on tour, Bryson is going to have one of the bigger power advantages of any player in the field. And Charles Howell III also about an average player when it comes to birdie production, whereas Bryson DeChambeau is the elite of the elite in the category. So I love taking him over here in the birdie or better matchup category. Also because birdie or better matchups, a little bit more immune to our human mistakes when it comes to our analysis, right? It's a new golf course. We don't know all that much about it, but we can hunker down on something that's binary, like a matchup where, let's say it plays easier than we expect or a little bit more difficult than we expect. We can be a little bit immune to that, right? Because both players are playing in the same conditions. So I think going to the matchups when there's a little bit more unknowns out there might be a good idea. And lastly, the last guy we'll talk about is another bomber, Dustin Johnson at 4 birdies. So another player like Bryson DeChambeau who shouldn't have an issue with going out there and dealing with the length of this golf course. I mean, DJ is made for major championship golf. We've seen it time and time again at the US Open, PGA Championship, gets in attention, sometimes even ends up winning majors like what we saw at the Masters or US Open. But here at this type of venue, right, maybe the pin locations won't be all so bad. I trust his putter to convert putts, right? Now, Bryson might be a little bit volatile in that category, but when he has it working, oh boy, can he make them in bunches. DJ is one of the best putters in the world, right? And we can go cold from stretch to stretch, but of late, I mean, we saw it at the Open, was making plenty of putts, was one of the best putters in the field. On the LIV Tour, has made plenty of birdies over the first 3 to 4 events, has shown that he is truly one of the best players in the field. One of the few guys I'm willing to take the over on here, at least take the chance on the over. There's a few others at 3.5 that are worth considering, especially some of the guys that are better putters. I mean, even towards the bottom of the board, a few guys that might be worth a few shots on, but in general, I'm a little bit more limited here. Like I said, the matchups, they seem to make a little bit more sense just because of the volatility and the fact that we don't know the golf course all that well. I mean, even if we take a look at strokes over here, it's a similar story. In fact, if anything, I'm looking to fade a lot of people when it comes to strokes because it's a long golf course. It is a par 71 at this point, at least to all of my knowledge, and also to Prize Picks' knowledge. They have it as a par 71 on here. It's a major championship type venue, so I'd be taking quite a few fades when it comes to the LIV golf board on strokes. But with birdie or better, a few guys that I am taking the over on because, with some of that distance, there are still a few holes that are relatively short, like this 413 yard, 567, that's at least reachable in 2. Same thing with 557. What have we got? Like 200 yard par 3s. Those are still birdieable at a certain level. 187 certainly going to be a birdie hole for a lot of the longer players. There's still birdies to be had out there. So I don't think it's going to be an absolute butchery. I don't think it's going to be like everyone's playing over par, something like that, even though it is a big boy golf course. So it's kind of just picking your spots when it comes to live stuff. So we have 5 props on here. I will be playing this as a 5-leg flex, but more importantly, guys, right, play a ton of 2 legs. Play a ton of 3-leg type of props. I have at least 30 props that I'm taking here for Thursday at the PGA, also Friday at the LIV Golf event, and I have over 40 entries already lined up on my account. So just a lot of exposure across the board, and if you're trying to do this and be consistent, you should probably be doing the same thing. So if you haven't gotten on the Patreon, and obviously that is how you're going to see all the props I'm taking. So all the birdie or better props that I have on my cards, all of the strokes, all of the birdie or better matchups for the live side are also posted on the end, as well as a lot of the slips that I'm entering. But most importantly, you can get a lot of the coaching side, right? If you need help with actually getting your exposure right, the types of cards to enter, all that sort of fun stuff, that is the exact way to get that type of coaching from me. So just another part of the Patreon that I think a lot of you out there would get some value from. So that is all I've got for the round 1 prize picks preview. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead and smash that like button, but also go ahead and let me know what your favorite PGA prop is and also what your favorite LIV Tour prop is. Obviously different start times. So on Thursday, we'll have the PGA Tour. On Friday, we'll have both events going at once, which just means more props to choose from. So throughout the weekend, expect to see a few more videos, both for the PGA side and the LIV Golf side, a few combined videos as well, when we have golf going on both days. But in either circumstance, I'm expecting it to be a high ROI week. More choices just means better choices and better props for us to attack. And when we can combine them, right, you can play PGA with the LIV Golf stuff, makes it an even better proposition. So I'm looking forward to it, guys. Should be an exciting week for all of us golf hardcore fans out here. But best of luck with all of the slips that you're going with, all of your fantasy lineups if you're going that direction. Thank you for all the support here on the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.